get the vibe that you're distant. There's something about you that's different. I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. It is a lie when you tell me that nothing is wrong, just leave it be. But I see it in your eyes. Something isn't right. Tell me again what I'm missing. 'Cause you're fading out. We've been here before. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll make it right. Don't go through that door. Tell me again, just tell me again, and I'll
Hello, hello, Rodney. Rodney, happy Tuesday to you.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I was trying to figure out my teleprompter here. Happy, I said that all right. Happy Tuesday.
Post
Um,
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was good. It was good for you, right? Except you were working on machinery, I understand.
We
Uh-oh.
we had some hunting problems, machinery problems, getting us out of the field on Thanksgiving. But other than that, we made it back for a nice little dinner.
Well, your worst day hunting wouldn't be a bad thing.
No,
You know?
it's not. Both of my boys. One of them's in college now, so it's. I try to spending time. Chance is pretty good.
Right.
I have to take it.
And you asked me to send you something. Sorry, folks, we're doing a little catch up here. Did you get that article?
I did. I did.
Oh, you've got it. You've got it.
I've got it.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Sorry about the. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know I sure did. I really just took it easy. And for anybody that's not, of course, we all know I'm recording the soccer game. Not a soccer fan particularly, but I'm
Is it
recording
already
it.
on?
It's on right now, and so I'm
Nice.
recording it, which actually will work out well. There's a not it's a little slow on the action for me. And so if I
Mhm.
record it, I can just speed through till something happens. That's the way I figure. Just fast forward till goal.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're going to start today like we always do. And that is going to be Rodney's going to fill us in on rates and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do this solo route. Here we go. There we go. Whoops.
Well, I may have shared
I
the
do
wrong
not know why
screen.
that's happening.
How about
Hang on.
that? Is that better?
Yes. I don't know what. Hang on.
I
Hang on.
shared the wrong screen. Sorry.
No problem.
Um, well, here you go. You can see today is we're down just a little bit from 20 basis points. If you see, at 9:30, it opened up like we're going to make some. And it's headed a little bit worse. So we're we're probably getting close to a price, what's called a price, change. Um, let's see here if we show that chart. There's that, but 1 month or 10 days. I wanted to show everybody this. This was November 10th. We talked about that. You see this green right here. That
Yeah.
was one of the biggest single jumps we've ever had in the positive. It went almost a point better, like just overnight. So um, we can go back and look at the market conditions, what happened, but um, that's just tough to figure out why that happened. But it's honestly what it's done is sparked a few purchases over the last few weeks. It just got down below home buyers. It made it attractive for them to purchase it. You know,
Yeah. And we're going to
so
talk about it in a minute. It doesn't take much it doesn't take, you don't have to retract much on the rates to get people excited again.
right. Well, that was good news. We've seen that, so hopefully, as who knows what happens with it, but if it gets better, we think our rates are going to get better. So,
Yeah. That's a good sign. That's a
so
good
that's
sign.
uh, that's that's it about the market. That's all I have today.
Okay. Hang on. Hang on. Here we go. Look at that. Son of a gun. Well, one of the first things that I wanted to talk to you about, because this is definitely your strong suit, is the news came out today that there was new conforming limits.
Yes, new conforming limits. Let me tell you what our area is.
Tell me what that means, and is it unique to our area and all of that?
It is new conforming limits. Fannie Mae, um, every not every year, but they look at house prices around the country and determine, as houses go up in value, they the Fannie Mae limit goes up in how much they're willing to take, right? So they're kind of adjusting it with the median sales price. So the federal housing
Let
finance,
me make sure that I got this straight. They're adjusting the conforming limit because prices have gone up so much in the last couple of years. Is that correct?
exactly, yes.
Thank you.
If without them doing that, it means more and more people will be falling into a jumbo product, which is not a Fannie product. Like normally, jumbo products are backed by the investors, big investors like Chase and things like that. They want to invest in that kind of money. They may still have servicing. They may service it, but basically Fannie is doing this to they want to keep a large portion of that business.
Got it. Okay.
So for the the baseline conforming loan limit for mortgages backed by Fannie and Freddie Mac in 2023 will be 726,200. It's increased by 79,000 compared to 2022.
That's a pretty
So
significant jump, is it not?
yes, it is. It's a it's a very big jump. They were actually, a lot of people had projected this, that it was going to be around 725. And then the market slowed a little bit, and everybody was like, "Well, I wonder what they're going to do." But they actually come out with a the around the similar estimate of that 725 that they initially had. So that's a good sign in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I've also read, and I just read this like I call it between the lines, just caught the headline as it was flying by, because median prices are adjusting down relatively quickly. That also affects the decisions on this conforming loan limit too. Is that additionally true?
Well, I thought it might delay the announcement of it, or
Right.
it could potentially cause them to go 700, whatever they thought that it would decrease.
Right.
But they kept it at where it was, and or what the projections was, a 726. And I'm like, to me, I thought that was a good sign of Fannie thinking they're not going to be hurt by keeping that same limit, even though that probably the rest of the country is expecting some kind of downgrade in their value
Right.
of the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
that was a good point to bring up, because I thought that was, I thought that was a positive sign, at least that they didn't change it.
yeah. Well, you know what it shows me, and I read something about this just the other day, that um, the housing market, in that's just one guy's opinion, is in such a state. Now, I don't mean good or bad or anything. It's just transition. The housing market's trying to figure itself out. Everybody's trying to determine their position, and God bless America. This is capitalism at its best. And but as these things kind of jostle for position, the government seems to be, and I don't mean this in a bad way, paying more attention to the housing market. In other words, conforming loan, that's important, I would think.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it's really good. Um, another piece to this that people really don't understand is there's also another limit that's called a balance.
Say that again. Your internet broke up for a second.
You have another program that okay, so my jumbo limit, what we're talking about now is the max conforming limit, that 726,000. Okay,
Yes.
that's the conforming loan.
Okay.
What they also have is Fannie has an agency high balance. They create this product for the gap between where conforming is and jumbo. So that new gap, see, in hit like last year, I think that gap, or right now that gap's only like 40 or 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very few loans that fall, but just over conforming, but not into jumbo. But
Oh, okay.
now the agency high balance is going to be 890,000. So we're almost at 900,000 before we go jumbo. So between 726 and 890, now I've got a spread of 170,000. Where right now it's only about 40, and it rarely catches a loan. So we're going to have to dig deep into this loan in 2023 and make sure we've got a competitive product there, because we're going to hit that agency high balance now.
Well,
If that
I'm
makes
gonna
sense.
I'm gonna come off really stupid here. So what happens when a person hits that gap?
Well, you've got to use that product. You can't
Oh,
go jumbo. It doesn't meet the eligibility for either product, for either the conforming limit or the jumbo limit.
so the product you're talking about is specifically designed for that gap between conforming and jumbo. That's what you're saying.
Yes, and it's a Fannie Mae high balance, is kind of
Oh,
what it's referring to, because of it's only eligible in areas where there is a high balance area. Like it's let's say if you're in Pocahontas, Arkansas, where I was hunting at, the average sales price may be 75,000 or something. They're not
ooh,
going to have a high balance. You know what I'm
right.
saying? They're low, but your big cities are going to have a high balance.
For anybody from Pocahontas, we love you.
Hey, I know all 6 people in Pocahontas, so we have a great relationship.
Hi, Bob. Hey, Larry. How you doing? That's
Yeah,
all
no,
6 of them.
yeah. I mean, Pocahontas is where our duck club's at. And
I love
it's
that.
it's just a real small. It's just like a lot of the small Arkansas towns are in that flyway.
Right. That's really interesting. Well, that's good, that they're on top of that. So, can we trip into this? The question, the title I had, and this would be interesting to anybody who's getting ready or thinking about buying now or in the near future. And the topic comes from an article, and I did a video on this the other day that I'm really, really proud of, but it's worth bringing up here because it is current news. Morgan Stanley is a finance company, big. They're pretty well renowned, but Morgan Stanley slashed its U.S. housing market outlook, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But what they did is they presented these numbers on what's going to happen to the market. We're going to go through that a little bit, and again, Rodney and I aren't here to sell anybody anything. We're just presenting information. You make your decision, whatever that is. But this company presented 2 scenarios on how the market could ultimately end up. And at the end of our live stream, I'll tell you why that so interested me, because can you imagine, they're giving us 2 scenarios. They're not, I guess it's not a projection at all. It's an estimation of what they think could happen on both sides of the coin, bull and bear. So, and you've got, hopefully you got the article there, right, Rodney?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this year, Morgan Stanley, and I would show you the article, but it's just highlighted text, so it's pretty boring. But this year, Morgan Stanley expects home prices, as measured by Case Shiller Index, to finish with a year-over-year increase of 4%. Now, remember, earlier in the year, we were having 20% year over year. So to show that it's 4% now is showing a serious decline. Now, the difference, if anybody's not familiar with Case-Shiller, the way they run prices on homes is across the U.S., but it's only on resales. It's for properties that have sold before and then they sold again, and that's the measurement that they take. So that's why you can hear different projections. That's the reason for that. Case-Shiller is brought up a lot, but they're saying that for the people that I've read, they're not necessarily the gold standard, but it's a good measurement. Anyway, so it's your repeat sales. That's how it goes. But anyway, so Case-Shiller was, now just give me this stuff, Rodney, when I'm yapping too much. I need you to jump in there. Just Case-Shiller was saying that it was going to be 8.9. It's 8.9 through the first 6 months. That means that Morgan Stanley expects the home prices to fall by around 5% from the original projection. In other words, things are changing. And what this live stream is about, what we're talking about, is where can we expect the bottom to hit? Because isn't that what everybody and their uncle is waiting for? If you're a buyer or a seller, you want to know when the bottom hits, when it passes, and so that everybody's, buyers are going to be getting in fast because they don't want rates to go up, and sellers are going to be getting in fast because, they may wait a little bit for the market to grow. But hitting bottom, everybody's interested in that. Any thoughts so far, Rodney? Anything?
No, they're right. Right now it's right, kind of right on that 4%. It's right on track with a lot of other projections that we've been talking about.
Yep, yeah, and that's why this is a pretty good article. So here's what they're saying when we're talking about the bottom. So when prices down, it sounds odd, but when prices come down to just 4% over year, understand that's a decline compared to 20 of 16%. That's a huge drop in price growth. And they just did a measurement. I just saw this about 2 hours ago. Median price went up 0.1% month over month from October or something. So it's flatlined, and I don't mean dead or anything, but Jerome Powell's having his effect. So the home price correction won't stop there, Morgan Stanley predicts. It says it should fall another 4% in 2023. Now get this, in total, Morgan Stanley expects home prices to fall around 10% between June this year and the bottom in 2024. I want to say that again. The bottom in 2024. I mean, that's an important piece of information right there, because it's telling us that 2023 is going to be weird. Rodney, thoughts?
Yep. What is that term that I like, that term that they've used throughout here? It's called like something to
pressurized affordability.
Not that one. The one where they call something from start to finish, basically from the highest point
peak to
the
trough.
lowest point. Peak to trough.
Yes.
Peak to trough. We're looking at the end. What they're saying is at the end of 24, we're going to be at 10% down from peak to trough.
Well, it just says what it says here in the article is the bottom in 2024. They didn't elicit which quarter it would be,
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But if you're looking, and now I distinguish buyers in several different ways. If you're looking for a house, and you find the house of your dreams, you might just have to buy it. I mean, if you've been looking for this house your whole life, when we're talking about heading to the bottom, we're talking about people that are trying to get the best deal they can. I'm just trying to catch up with Angie's message there. If you're the kind of person that's kind of watching the market to get the best deal you can, that's who we're talking about today. We're talking about everybody, but the exception is if you find that house that's perfect, you might just have to buy it. And you never be sad about that. You never be sad. But if you find the house you want, you're not going to wait for the market to hit bottom before you make an offer, is my point. Yeah. So the last housing correction saw prices fall 27% between 2006 and 2012. And what caused that was high unemployment, again, pressurized affordability, lending issues, and a supply glut with tons of foreclosures, short sales, and that sort of thing. That's what caused that 27% drop back then. I'm going to make a point here. What we're talking about in no way, shape, or form equates to the 2008 crash. Just get that out of your mind, because this time around, the reason that it's different and the way it looks, the reason it's so weird, is what I had mentioned before, is called pressurized affordability. That's what's different, and people need to understand what that means. Pressurized affordability means high home prices that it makes it hard for people to afford, and then high mortgage rates at the same time, which is a double whammy for anybody trying to buy a house. That's what pressurized affordability is. Does that make sense, Rodney?
Yes. And this is really the first time in my career, 20 plus years, that I've seen us double dip on both sides, prices and rates.
Yes, that is right. And so this article goes on, and then there's a point to be made that I haven't heard anybody talk about. And it's the median price of existing home sales is up 38% since March of 2020. Mortgage rates, of course, are up about 3% points or so in the past few months, maybe 8 months, I guess. And like Rodney said, it's the first time he's seen that. In this article, saying it hadn't happened since 1980, which goes back a minute. And because of that, that double whammy on affordability makes it harder and harder for people to buy a house. That only makes sense. So here's what they're saying. In order to improve, to depressurize that affordability situation, there's three things that can happen. First is if inflation decelerates and financial conditions loosen, that would push mortgage rates lower and improve affordability. Bottom line is, if the Fed backs off, mortgage rates, although they're not directly connected, I'm not saying that at all, but they may be able to float down a bit. That's going to provide some more affordability for somebody. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Got it. Second, rising incomes, and that's a little bit behind the curve, but this is the second way that we can depressurize affordability, and that's by people getting wage increases, which we know the Fed is pushing against that. Because that would tally into the inflation thing, but it would still improve affordability. Third, home prices continue to fall would help depressurize affordability for obvious reasons. If the house is cheaper, you can afford more. Simple as that. So those are the three things. But here's the thing. Up until now, most people have focused on 23 because it's insane to consider what 24 is. I mean, we don't know what January is going to be doing, let alone 2024. But what Morgan Stanley is saying pretty strongly here is that December 23 will be the bottom for home prices. So if anybody's going to put that on their calendar, that's what these guys are projecting. But by the time we're done with the live stream, you're going to see for them, like Rodney and me and everybody else in the market, it really is best guess. So far, so good. Catch me up, Rodney. What are you thinking?
And in 2 weeks, they're going to, readjust it anyway. So, I liked how that they're putting it out there that far, but it's difficult, to project this economy. We got a lot of stuff going on. Now you got, if Ukraine straightens up or China goes to war, whatever. I mean, a lot of that stuff could affect us. So that's, it's just hard to tell. But there's one thing I wanted to kind of throw in here that they talk about, Andy, and I'll read it. It's, quote, supply conditions historically argue for climbing home prices from here. If we are below 6 months of total supply, annual home price growth has never turned negative within the 6 months, going back to the beginning of this Case-Shiller Index in the late 1980s. We currently sit at just 3.9 months of supply. Now, they give a statistic that this could be different. Ongoing affordability strain, okay, like we talked about, could make us go negative with a low inventory number. But I think supply conditions are still too low. And if we were to come out, let's say inflation improves, rates improve, let's say it's even by February or March, supply conditions aren't going to fix themselves. And
Right.
if you're in good areas, supply and demand is going to overrule everything. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm just still thinking that a lot of these cities are great cities. It's where people want to be. And once, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't see, when affordability, when rates come back, if rates come back before we have a big supply or a good supply, I think all this home pricing talk will be mute, because it's going to artificially get itself back up because of the supply issue
Yep.
in the cities. Yes. Denise has come in here. My light just cut off. Denise come in to make sure I was talking about the new loan limits while we're on our show.
Sure. You want to do that now?
No, well, we already did. So.
Oh,
But
the
that
loan
was-
limit. Okay, the conformings. Got it.
Yeah.
And Angie's got a couple of questions. Angie, we'll get those. I just want to kind of get through the rest of this article, and I'll address those questions if that's okay with you. No, here's the deal. And what you had mentioned is an important part, right? When you think about seller's market, buyer's market, that 4 to 5 months, 5 to 6 months is usually where it starts to shift a little bit from one side to the other. Less than 6 or 5, it's a seller's market. More than 6, that means the buyers are going to have the say. But in this market, the fact that we're under, we're 4 months in some places, less than others, more in others, but less than 6 by a strong margin, and markets are still, the median prices are still dropping. That's an outrageous thing for me. That just doesn't make sense. That's not the way it's worked up to this point. And that's just telling us, and what they're making a point of in this article is that if you don't have affordability, you don't have anything, because the sweet spot for people, what are the average loans that you give out over the course of a year between 4 and 7? Would that be the sweet spot?
Yeah, the average loan, our average loan size is probably, I think somewhere probably around 350.
Okay. So
like maybe closer to 400.
So people that are concerned about affordability are in that sweet spot.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So it's going to have a high percentage of participants in that kind of a thing.
Yes.
And so anyway, the fact that they expect home prices to start falling on an annual basis in March 23, despite tight inventory, reflects how unprecedented this affordability situation is in the housing market. And I suspect, the government's going to get involved somehow. I don't have a clue on how they're going to do that, but that sounds like a government thing in the end. But to finish this article up, and if you want to, you can take one and I'll take the other if you want, Rodney. You want it like the bull case? You want to take that one, or you want me to do it?
You take the bull and I'll take the bear.
Got it. So in the bull case, what they're talking about is the positive spin, the positive view of this particular market where we're starting right now. How can it turn out to be the more positive side? In the bull case, the peak to trough, that top to bottom, that they expect, this is the bull case if it happens this way. For peak to trough, they would expect U.S. home prices to fall 10% through 24. However, in the bull case, the firm believes home prices don't fall in 2023. The peak to trough decline comes in around 5%. Instead of the 10, they're saying, what if it just comes in at 5? If it does, the reason that that's happened, or what causes or is needed for that to happen, is two key pillars they're talking about. And that's going to be tighter than expected inventory levels, meaning supply and demand. If supply is low, the prices go high, and lower than expected mortgage rates. And that means, and that's what Rodney was talking about earlier, and we've seen the evidence that where interest rates were 7%, if they drop to 6.4, 5, whatever, if they drop a little, people get excited. They start getting involved again because they want to get in while they're getting good, so to speak, before it goes up again. So those two things have to happen. And what's going to keep the inventory low, according to this case study, is that lock-in effect, because 6% for somebody that has a loan currently at 3% or 3.5% isn't going to see a 6% loan. If they sell and have to get another loan, they're not going to see that as a positive thing. So homeowners with a 3 or 4% loan, they're going to stay put. That's called the locked-in effect. And that's going to lend itself to the lower inventory. So those two things, lower inventory, just like Rodney said, he's the man, he's the guy, the one with the brains. With that and a slightly lower mortgage rate, which they're averaging, they're saying it would average, they're projecting 6.2 in 23. But in this case, if the Fed tames inflation and rates fall below 6, they're saying this positive spin could happen. That's the bull case. Lower mortgage rates, and by lower, I mean 6-ish, and less inventory. That's the bull side of things.
Yeah, and I like it. Honestly, I think there's some evidence to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We may have it on our next week's chat, but the increase, I bet you'll see an increase in mortgage applications after that November 10th day where that rate went down a full point. So let me give you the bear case. This is a good one. Bear case, home prices crashed 20%. How about that? Now they do point out. I want to point out one thing right here is that they're talking about in no terms, in no way that they're talking about we're going to get back to a 2008 scenario. Okay, but if they say if a deep recession manifests, you could crash from 20% from peak to trough. So from the highest your house was appraised, it'll go down 20% total, and then an 8% decline in 2023 alone. Now this is you would need a longer, deeper recession for this to happen. That and they go on to mention again, it's not like for 2008, but leading into unemployment, when people start losing their jobs and things like that, that's when they feel like the could weaker than expect demand with a large increase in inventories. Now, they don't think it'll be too crazy negative for the housing market, like as far as foreclosures go. That they do believe that the health of credit standards should keep a ceiling on how high true distress transactions can climb. Additionally, a mortgage servicing industry that is far more practiced in offering borrowers foreclosure alternatives should keep more borrowers in their homes if we see a deep recession in things like that. So they're thinking 20% at worst.
Yeah, which is which is pretty huge. At least it's not that 27%. But when you're talking about servicers and lenders being able to help, maybe not lenders, but being able to help navigate the foreclosure problem modification, that's a skill set that they've gotten much better at over the last few years. Would that be true? Because of COVID and all
Yes.
that happened?
Yes, since they've been doing it, they are much more I'd never seen that before, in my times. When servicers did this COVID thing, when they started forbearance.
Yes.
So yes, they are credit reporting companies. Everybody has a good handle on it now.
Yeah. It's but it's like I said, it's a skill set, so they can help people manage their way through that. So the bottom line, and I thank you very much, Rodney, for that. So that's the worst case scenario, and that's going to be what they're projecting. There's 122 cities, and that number, I don't know if it seems arbitrary to me, but there's a lot of different areas, and Rodney mentioned this a little bit ago. Some areas will be affected greatly, and others maybe not. Real estate truly is local. And so when we're saying 20%, we don't at all mean across the country. There's going to be a lot of that going on, but some areas, it won't have that quite so bad. But they did, and this surprised me a little bit, maybe you too, they did include Nashville on that 20% crash list. So we'll have to see what happens.
Wow, I didn't look at Nashville specifically,
Moody's.
but
Yeah,
I'm still stuck on supply and demand. I still think that we have not enough inventory and a lot of pent up demand to purchase because of COVID and all the stuff that's happened. We had a lot of sales in our area, but a lot of it was from people moving in, not people moving from house that would put a house on the market, from house to house. We had a lot of people moving in that got up a lot of the inventory.
Right. Well, and to be fair, when I'm talking about that 20% in Nashville kind of a situation, I mean Davidson County. I'm not trying to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a difference between Williamson is different than Davidson.
Yeah. I don't know if Davidson County's numbers, but I think it would be, of course it shot up, but I'd be surprised if those statistics go against that report that's never been, that we've never been negative when we've had low inventory.
Yeah, that's a weird.
But we're right on track for it to happen, though, right? With that term you're using, I forget what it is.
Pressurized affordability.
Pressurized affordability. Yeah, it could be the first thing that causes that list. First time it could ever be negative on that list, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it's something. And I'm convinced that that's what's leading. Nobody has a crystal ball. Everybody, their brother keeps saying that, but at least these guys laid out two options, and this is what, when I considered this, what blew me away, and I was like, God, dog, we're starting from the same set of numbers, being in the numbers as they are today, and they go through their projections, and then they give us our, result A and result B, starting from the same place. And these are like these are smart people. And even they're, by definition, with this, and we don't really know.
Yeah, they didn't want to chance it like the weather, just throwing something out there and being wrong. At least they thrown out two answers on both sides of the coin so they could
That's
be
right. Best place to be a meteorologist would be San Diego. What's it? Sunny and warm. Sunny, clear, and warm. So Angie's got a couple of questions. Can you see those over there, Rodney?
I can.
Okay. Let's take, as long as the Tennessee market doesn't go up more in California. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. So what's the best scenario? I'm going to try this. And if it blows up in my face. Oh, it worked. So what's the best scenario for both a buyer and seller? Does it really matter when you sell if you're not planning on a loan? Do you want to field that, Rodney? Or you want me to take it?
No, you got to take that one.
Go.
You're the salesman. You're the real estate.
Have a nice day. I'm out of here. Jeez, call me a. All right. So here's my answer. Does it really matter when you sell if you're not playing alone? If you're purchasing cash, what you're looking for is you want, like anything else, you want to sell at and get the most returns, and you want to buy for the least. That's what you want to do. I mean, maximize your returns, right? And what I'm telling you now is that if the market is going down, as everybody lives in their homes, at least based on the numbers from this last month, 0.0% increase in month over month is nothing. That's flat. So it doesn't matter what you want to play, what you want to position yourself for. And I don't know, there's a question that's important. Do you need to sell in order to buy cash? Then that would bring Rodney into the mix if that's not the case, right, Rodney?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because if somebody needs to sell in order to buy, then you're tied to the result of the sale. You're tied to that. If you have the ability to have a lender, like, I don't know, somebody that could be on this broadcast that could help you with between selling and buying, like a bridge loan or some other HELOC or some sort of an org thing like that, that would be possible. So to answer your question directly, the best scenario is for you to get the most dollars for your house before the market actually, if it were to actually crash, catch it before that happens. But then on the purchase side, you're going to be able to take advantage if you can wait it out. And they're saying if there's a year of a gap in there, and check me on my thinking on this, Rodney, because I'm thinking as we fly, that you could ride it out. And if you wait for if the market's coming down, I don't know if being too quick, Johnny on the spot, would be what you want to do to get it for the best price. The qualifier is if you find the house of your dreams, and what I mean by that, it checks all the boxes. Just buy the thing. Just buy it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's a lot of possibilities on that.
I'll throw in something. Just for me, when I'm buying a house, I want the house, right?
Right.
It's like something that's important to me. And if you think about, for me, over the course of a time, I know we're talking about this, but I don't look at my house I don't look at it from month to month, or, I don't always look at my house as it's a long-term investment, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So I'm not looking at it like, month over month. I'm looking like I'm going to buy this house, and I'm probably going to keep it for 30 years or 20 years or whatever, maybe forever.
Right.
So when I look at that and say, if I'm borrowing, if this house is 400,000 and it's the house I want, for a potential 4% drop in 2023, $1,000. And in the scheme of things, $16,000 when you're buying a $400,000 house is, you always want to watch your pennies. But to me, it would be worth it to say, yeah, I don't care if it goes backwards a little bit. I'm going to buy this house. I want to live in it. I want to, this is my home forever. So that's the kind. You always think it's always an asset as well. But if you know you're going to live in it for several years, I mean, who knows what the market's going to do? But it only goes backwards once every 10 years, once every 15 years. I mean, it doesn't go backwards very often, your house value.
That's absolutely right. And so I want to soften my comments by saying what I said before. If you find the house that you really want that checks all the boxes, for goodness sakes, buy it. And it's a long-term deal, just like Rodney is saying. But I, as a realtor, I can't help but understand where buyers are wanting to save a little money after, especially after being beat up this last couple of years. I mean, just buyers didn't have a chance to negotiate at all. And now they have a chance to like have some say in the deal. And so I'm trying to address that. And there's a balance, of course. I'm not, investors are going to look at it strictly by the numbers. It's a yes, no thing, but for buyers, it's more of an emotional deal. So her next question is, and this would be a good one for Rodney. Here we go. What do you think, Rodney?
I actually do think we will see in the spring home sales pick up. I think that from the data I'm seeing, that the inflation, if things keep going good, the inflation, stagflation, or whatever they're calling it, improves a little bit, and our rates just keep ticking down, maybe another 1 point or something like that from where they are. I think that would spark a lot of people to start purchasing, and it should start first time home buyers, honestly, because they have been kicked out of the market for a good bit now, and they're just now starting, in my opinion, getting back to where they have a chance. And although you're, I just don't think you go into it thinking appreciation or going backwards when you buy a house. Of course you want to buy, I think there's rules you buy, like don't try to be the biggest house in the neighborhood. I think things like that are still more
Valid.
important than, and you can answer on that, but I think they're more important than the actual. I mean, just look back in 10 years, if you bought this house right now, and you said, well, you passed on it because it was $16,000 too much, you thought, or you thought it was going to go backwards $16,000.
Right.
But in 10 years, say you rent for another 2 and then buy something that's maybe not what you wanted, I think that's way worse. And the people who bought the last few years without all the negotiations and having time to look at things are the most unhappiest purchasers in our history, right? I mean, we've seen the studies, like 75% of them are not happy with the house or with the way things ended, right, with their house purchase. So,
yeah,
you couple that, I think now you're going to be happy with your purchase. You're going to understand the rates are not the best of all times, but they'll come back down again, so you can take care of that later.
Yeah, the and Angie has mentioned on here she needs to sell to be able to get the next one, and that being the case, then the bottom line means that you need to get the best return possible for your current home. You need to profit the most. So put yourself in the position. I mean, I don't know what your timeline is. I honestly don't. But anyway the market is now, it's going to take a while for a house to sell. It just is. I mean, in the old days, a few months ago, it was 2 days or 2 hours or 2 weeks, and it was sold over asking price. Well, now I'm seeing houses on the market with 30, 60, 90 days and more regularly. So wherever we are now, you may be in a particular hot spot that sells more quickly. Just talk to anybody out there, and you can find out what your days on market is. But that's going to be a big part of it. I mean, you got to maximize. That's all I'm getting at. Golly, and I had a really good point I was going to make, and it completely flew out of my head. Gone. And it was going to be it was
it was life-changing.
It was life. Yeah, there would have got 1 million views on that. Well, my mom used to say, if it's important, you'll think of it again. It's okay. Well, I think. Oh, yes, got it. So when the question is asked, do you think home sales are going to go up in the spring? My answer to that is a flat out absolutely yes. The question is, are prices going to go up? Because typically what'll happen when the daisies pop up, the listings come up. And then it gets just a little tiny bit warmer, middle of February, end of February. Then the buyers come out and it's a beehive of activity. Last year, well, they're projecting to end this year with the home sales at 4.43. We're normally at 5.2. A couple of years ago, it was 6.1. You know, I mean, that's a lot of homes to sell in the United States during the course of a year. The annual adjusted, they're saying if things stay like it is, it's 4.43, and that's like nothing. It's gone back 12, 15 years back to the big one. So the question is, and this goes to what Rodney was saying, can we have an increase in home sales? And does that necessarily mean that prices are going to go up? And that depends on that inventory that Rodney's talking about.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see how this plays out.
It's like a board game.
I'm like, you know, we've got some unprecedented circumstances that we're facing right now, and it's going to be. Honestly, Andy, the last 10 years, I don't know how long it is. We've been in such a great market. You know, it's just crazy good. Rates, home prices, people buying everywhere. It's just great. Kind of jobs are doing good. And I'm like, how is this thing going to end? Like,
yep.
And then, of course, over the last few years, the crazy amount of equity appreciation that the country's seen. And then I'm really like, wow, how is this going to end? You know, because everybody talks about bubbles, you know, and
Yeah,
but I get the bubble, but when you still don't have enough inventory, you're still creating a supply issue.
Yeah, but you've got to have the people to buy it, which is the catch,
right?
And that's at affordability. Now I want to mention, I won't put it up on the screen. Angie said, I'd like to move next year, preferably in late summer. This is my take on that. Good for you. And I mean good for you, because by then, what Rodney and I were talking about is things are so muddled. Nobody knows what direction. I mean, how could you? Nobody is certain of any kind of a direction. There's no particular trend except flat. It's the only trend we're seeing currently. But by the middle of next summer, I bet by late spring, like tax time, we'll have a better sense of where things are headed. And so if next summer is what you're thinking, at least you're going to have some idea of where things are going, and you'll be able to make better decisions. I bet you. I would bet money on that. There would be a little more certainty, you know.
Yeah, I think it's going to show itself. I think they're going to get out of it. We're either going to be making progress on inflation or not, you know, or it's going to be going the other.
And in the end, as we kind of wrap this thing up, in the end, I think that the message needs to be, there were two things. As I've gone through my career, I've learned, and this speaks back to what Rodney was talking about, somebody pulling the trigger because the house is priced right. I've found that there's two kinds of buyers, ultimately. And one is dollar-centric, and one is house-centric. The one that is dollar-centric is buying, they could have two houses. They'd actually like this one more, but they'd buy this one because it's $20,000 less. Though it's a dollar-centric person will choose a house that they'll compromise on a lesser house, whatever that means, for the dollar. And those are the ones that wake up in a year or 2 years and go, man, I should have got the other one. You know, that $30,000 would have washed away in a year or two. And I should have got the one with the bonus room instead of trying to save 30. Then the second person is the person that's house-centric, and they have an idea they have a budget, but a particular house that they want. And if it costs a little more to get what they need for their family and family flow, those are the ones you talk to 5 years later, and they're improving the house and loving life, and their life is good.
Yeah.
They're not bemoaning 20 or 30 or number of dollars. So my advice is be that house centric person within a budget instead of the dollar centric, because that'll come back to bite you, and you'll say, I should have spent that extra 20 grand.
Yeah, I haven't. You're on. I don't see that side of it, but I see those people all the time. There's and I don't. And Andy, I bet there's a ton of people that would rather buy the cheaper house or the less expensive house and love it because they spent less money too. Because money is more important than where their kitchen's at or where their bedroom's at. So
Right.
I get the money centric people too. I mean, you've got to somewhat be money centric, but I think if you just look, and I'm not a flipper, so we're talking about people purchasing generally for homes and some investment properties. So when we're talking about this, most of my customers are either going to live in it or rent it, and
Yeah.
and most of them most of them living in it. So that is a huge piece. What I always say, that's kind of what I go back to, because that's what, if I'm buying a house, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know,
And when I talk about house centric and you're talking about being money centric, that sort of thing, what I'm talking, the first thing I say is it's a house you like, but it's got to be within a budget. I mean, don't overspend. My whole point is buy a house that you can be happy in, and not that, but I'm not judging anyway. I get it. Angie is saying, we painted the outside of the house and put a new roof on, currently painting the inside and want to do some more updates. She's a fixer-upper type of person. Absolutely.
yeah,
Especially, now that you mention that, and before we break away, especially in this market, my inkling is that you've got a beautiful home. But for anybody that's getting ready, that's trying to sell their home or preparing to sell their home these days, it better, and that sounds like a warning, but you're better off if it's in really good move-in condition as much as possible, because now you're competing with other homes trying to sell, and you've got to make yours lovely. I mean, they've got to want to move into your place. So now is the time to make homes spick and span and move in ready, and that'll help you get more dollars. And that's what we were talking about a minute ago. So
good one, sell.
good one. Any final thoughts there, Rodney? You never did tell me, did you get your machine fixed down there in Arkansas?
I'll quickly give you a what happened. So we're hunting that morning, and after it broke down, I called my buddy. He is like, "Hey, call this people. I heard some really good stuff about this Harold Implements in
Okay.
Corning, Arkansas." I take it down there, and I first call them, say, "Hey, you guys open?" And I just broke my machine and need to bring it down there to get it fixed. It's a side by side. It's a Polaris, so they run a belt. When your belt breaks, they try to let a lesser part break before say a transmission or something, or a
Right.
bigger
Right.
break. So,
Yeah.
anyways, and I bring it down there now. Give you a background, if I was to bring it back to Nashville to get it fixed, I'm on like a 30-day waiting list. I mean, and it would
Wow.
take them, I wouldn't see it back until well after duck season. So I take it down to Corning. They say they can take it in. He really doesn't say it when he's going to look at it or anything, and I'm just begging. And it's awful. I just drug this thing out of a mud hole. So I drop it off. I say, I apologize for the condition it's in. And I called earlier, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I sit in the parking lot for 15 minutes. My son had a Zoom call for his class, one of his classes at UT. So we did a Zoom call for his class, and we started heading back to the camp. About 40 minutes total went by after I dropped it off. They called and had it fixed. And I'm like, I didn't even think they could fix it that fast. So I experienced the best customer service that I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, I just didn't understand how they got it fixed that fast or anything. But yes, we got it back. I was hoping to get it back just over like 4 or 5 day period. But these dudes called me before we even got back to the camp. And so I was like, AJ, I'm tired. I've had a long day. I need you to go back and get the machine. And it was just crazy. I mean, those guys at Harold Implements in Corning, Arkansas, hats off to you, my man. Yeah.
Here's our first commercial.
Man, I'm
Yes.
telling you, they did it was just unbelievable. I've never experienced that kind of service, but they just take care of duck hunters like that because they know we need our stuff back really, honestly, as fast as he got it back, so I could use it the next day. But, and then another experience I told you about it, we had to walk out of that field because my son left the lights on, but that's a whole nother story.
We're going to have to add Rodney's story corner to our, I bet you've got a lot.
I mean, if everything goes perfect, Andy, it's like these camping trips. You don't ever remember the great camping trips. You only remember the ones that rained all night. You woke up 6 times in 6 different puddles. I mean, that's the way it is.
And you came home happy.
Yeah, I just, enjoy spending time with the boys. They're getting older, and, it's nice to – I don't see my oldest one much. He's in college, so he don't come down very much. So it's, for him to spend time with them, that's a good thing.
That's great. That's we'll end on that wonderful story to that company. I can't remember the name of them, but they did
Harold
really
Implement.
Harold Implement. In where?
In Corning, I think it's Corning, Arkansas. They have a service department. They have it's like a big, huge Ace Hardware, and then they sell UTVs, side by sides for. So it's like a big, huge tractor stuff too. I'm sure. So
got it.
It's everything. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're sending out big love to those guys for taking care of Rodney. Rodney, thank you very much. Angie, as always. Did you read that message?
Yes, I'm ignoring that message. I'm 54 years old, Angie. I got 8 years back-to-back college. I've got 2 done. I'm like, come on, man. I'm pushing this ball downhill. Somebody in bottles and diapers, I ain't doing it.
Oh, Angie, I want to thank you again for being a part of our presentation, our live stream. You're always a wonderful addition. Thank you very much. And I hope we help you. So we'll talk to you all soon. Hang on. Let me get my screen back up here. Bing. There we go. Look at that. Everybody have a great week. And Rodney, I'll see you next Tuesday.
See you soon. See y'all.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye.